Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty fascinating, maybe a bit unsettling too. The Georgia Guidestones. You know, the ones sometimes called America's Stonehenge?
Mm,
But we're not just looking at the stones. There was this really bizarre incident with a cryptic cube that showed up there and then, well, vanished dramatically.
right.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack the source material we've got. It digs into the Guidestones' pretty controversial messages and also this unusual theory connecting them to a specific date.
Yeah, it's about how symbols and history can kind of weave together into these really intriguing narratives.
Exactly. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, get you well informed on a topic that's sparked, well, a lot of talk and speculation.
Okay, so our mission here is really to sift through these details from the sources, look at the claims, and try to understand the different interpretations people have about the monument, about the cube.
Right.
We're focusing on what these connections could imply based on the sources, looking at the stories they build, but without saying this is definitely what happens or anything like that.
Absolutely. This is all about giving you, the curious learner, the key info without all the noise. Okay, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So maybe we should start with the basics. The Georgia Guidestones themselves. Massive granite slabs.
Huge. They went up on March 22, 1980.
And commissioned by someone using a fake name, R.C. Christian. Which is already, kind of mysterious.
It really sets the stage, doesn't it? This unknown person or group puts up this enormous, strange monument in rural Georgia, and then, poof, gone.
It's almost too perfect for conspiracy theories, isn't it?
It is. And they're often called, as you mentioned, the 10 Commandments of the New World Order.
Yeah.
And the actual tenets carved into them are pretty specific. The first one, that's probably the most famous, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. And then the 10th one is also quite memorable. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature.
Right.
And it's really those two, especially the first one, that ignites so much debate and, well, conspiracy theories.
The 500 million figure, it's just so provocative, almost chilling. Do the sources say how that's supposed to happen, or is it just like a guiding principle?
The sources mostly frame it as an ideological statement, yeah. A sort of vision for the future, not a practical roadmap.
Ah, okay.
Which, of course, leaves the how wide open to interpretation. And yeah, many of those interpretations are pretty unsettling.
Okay, so from these kind of unsettling commands, things get even weirder with this cube incident. Tell us about that. September 2014, right?
Yeah.
A perfectly cut cube just gets placed in a slot.
Exactly. In the upper right corner of the English commandment slab, right above that first commandment we were just talking about.
Weird placement.
Very specific. Initially, people thought, okay, it's a code. Lots of attempts to figure it out.
Right.
Then, kind of surprisingly, this guy comes forward, says, oh, it's just my wedding date and initials.
Huh. A bit anticlimactic.
Sort of. And the public chatter about the cube did die down for a bit after that.
Okay, but here's where it gets really strange. The removal. It wasn't just taken down quietly.
Not at all. It was only there for, what, 5 or 6 days?
Yeah.
Then a man takes it down in public and smashes it with a hammer and chisel.
Smashes it.
I mean,
Gives pieces away.
Yep, gives the fragments to people watching.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was filmed and put online.
Wow. Okay, that's not the action of someone who just put their wedding date there. What does smashing a cube mean symbolically?
Well, according to the source material we looked at, a broken or unveiled cube. It often symbolizes chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah, like the opening of chaos on Earth or opening Pandora's box. It's a pretty heavy, ominous interpretation.
Definitely ominous. Especially given the Guidestones' whole vibe.
Right.
And there were details about the cube itself, measurements.
Oh, yeah. Very precise.
Yeah.
The cube was 6 by 6 inches.
6'6". Okay.
Right. And the slot it fit into was smaller, about 5 by 5 inches. While it was in the slot, you could see 2014 on it. But once it was removed, other markings became visible. There's an 8, a 14, a 16, a 20, and jam.
And jam. What are those thought to mean?
The sources suggest M could stand for Master Mason and jam for judgment against mankind.
Judgment against mankind. Okay. Heavy stuff.
And remember, that notch for the cube, it was only cut into the English slab.
Right, despite the commands being in multiple languages?
Exactly. The sources point to that as being very intentional, like it was highlighting the English instructions maybe.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. There's another layer here, the structure itself, the Guidestones as an altar.
Yeah, that's another interpretation presented in the sources.
Oh.
If you look at it from above, apparently it resembles an altar. And there's even something on the capstone that looks like a, quote, blood spot.
A blood spot, wow.
And this is where the sources draw a line back to ancient history, specifically to horned altars from ancient Israel mentioned in the Bible.
Horned altars.
Yeah, they had these distinct features, 4 points sticking up like horns, and a flat top for sacrifices.
Okay.
Now, the Guidestones aren't identical, obviously, but they have those vertical slabs, kind of like points, and the flat capstone in the middle. The similarity is noted.
So pairing that ancient sacrificial imagery with commandment number 1, the depopulation one, that's quite a mix.
It definitely raises questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's the intended meaning of putting those things together? It feels ominous.
And then add this detail, the cube, the 6 by 6 by 6 cube, was placed under that capstone.
Right, almost like it was supporting this altar.
Which the sources call very ominous and strange. I can see why.
Definitely strange. And the number 6 keeps popping up, doesn't it?
Yeah, the 6 by 6 by 6 cube.
6 sides on the cube, and the Guidestones monument itself is made of 6 stones total.
5 vertical, 1 capstone.
Right. Plus, they're aligned with astronomical stuff, too, which just adds another layer of mystique.
Okay, so we have the stones, the commands, the cube, the markings, the altar symbolism, the number 6. Where does this all lead, according to the sources? There was a specific theory, right, from a Daily Crow columnist.
That's right. The columnist took all these symbols, especially the cube's markings, the 8, 14, 16, and proposed they might be pointing to a specific date, August 14th, 2016.
August 14, 2016. And let's be clear, this is us reporting on the theory from the source material, not making a prediction ourselves.
Absolutely. Just presenting the analysis found in the sources.
Yeah.
And the significance of that date, August 14, 2016. On the Hebrew calendar, it was Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av.
Tisha B'Av. Okay, and the source explains that this date has, well, a really dark significance in Jewish history.
Extremely dark. It's cited as the date both the first temple, back in 423 BC, and the second temple in 70 AD were destroyed.
Wow, both temples on the same date.
According to tradition, yes, but there's more. The source lists other tragedies linked to Tisha B'Av, a massive slaughter of Jews by Romans in 135 AD, expulsions from England, France, Spain over the centuries, Germany entering World War I in 1914, and Hitler apparently getting approval for the final solution plan on Tisha B'Av.
Good grief. The source calls it the worst day in Jewish history.
Understandably so. So connecting the cube's markings 8, 14, 16 to this specific date, Tisha B'Av in 2016 gives the theory a lot more weight than just, say, August 16th, 2014.
Right. The Tisha B'Av connection is key to the columnist's argument.
Exactly.
And then they dive into numerology, which gets pretty complex.
It does. So 2016 marked 36 years since the Guidestones went up in 1980.
Okay, 36 years.
And the source notes that 36 can be seen as 3 times 6, which equals 18, or
6 plus 6 plus 6.
Right, 6 plus 6 plus 6.
Yeah.
And there's another one. If you sum up all the whole numbers from 1 up to 36,
Don't tell me.
you get 666.
Of course you do. It's almost too neat for a monument like this, isn't it?
It fits the pattern, certainly. And the source adds another layer. March 22nd, 2016, exactly 36 years after the Guidestones unveiling was the date of the Brussels bombings in Belgium.
Wow, 36 years to the day.
The source even calculates 13,150 days between the unveiling and the bombings.
Okay, that's specific. Any other date connections?
Yes, one more mentioned. Going back 777 days before that Tisha B'Av date in 2016.
777 days.
That date was June 29th, 2014. Which, according to the source, was the day ISIS declared its caliphate.
Okay, so the argument is piling up these numerical and date coincidences. What's the underlying idea here? Why would someone embed these clues?
Well, the columnist brings up the idea, common in these kinds of theories, that secretive groups often labeled the Illuminati in the source material operate by a kind of code.
A code.
Yeah, that they supposedly reveal their intentions in plain sight through symbols, numbers, dates. So these aren't just random coincidences, but perhaps intentional signals, if you follow that line of thinking.
Gotcha. Hidden in plain sight. So what was the columnist's final takeaway? Did they predict disaster on August 14th, 2016?
No, they were cautious. They didn't claim something would happen. They framed it more as a watch date.
A date to watch, given all the symbolism they'd connected?
Exactly, based on the patterns they saw in the Guidestones, the cube, the dates, the numbers.
Okay, so that's a lot to take in. We've gone from these giant stones with controversial messages to a mysterious cube smashed to pieces, linked to chaos.
Symbolic altars, number patterns.
And finally connecting it all to Tisha B'Av, one of the darkest dates in history through numerology. The sources definitely paint a vivid picture, even if it's unsettling.
They really do. And what's fascinating here, I think, is seeing how a single monument, these stones,
Hmm.
can become such a focal point. People draw lines connecting ancient history, religious calendars, numbers,
Yeah.
and weave it into a narrative. It shows how different bits of information, when you put them together in a certain way, can create a really compelling story, especially for people looking for deeper meanings.
Yeah.
What kind of stands out most to you after going through all this?
For me, it keeps coming back to that first commandment. Maintain humanity under 500 million. When you have that as your starting point, and then you see all these symbols being interpreted as pointing towards chaos or judgment or a historically catastrophic date,
Hmm.
it makes you wonder, what does that combination really signify? And maybe, what does it say about us, about our need to find meaning or maybe warnings in these kinds of mysterious objects? It's a lot to think about.